Want to take a look behind the scenes at one of Disney's best parks, Animal Kingdom? Well, I just watched the 4th episode of Disney Plus's new Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom from National Geographic. Stick with me and I'll break it down after the intro. Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Today we're continuing to watch the new documentary series over on Disney Plus, Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. The 4th episode is called Meet the Mandrel, so well, you gotta know we're seeing Mandrills today. And hey, without any further ado, here's what went down. We're straight off to the Mandrills. And when we start off our episode, it's just the 3 women over there. It's Snow, her daughter Scarlet, and her daughter Hazel. And well, it was just 3 that get on each other's nerves a little bit, although they're quite friendly and love each other too. But they're apparently getting some injuries and whatnot. And so one of the things they do, and they'd probably do this anyway, but definitely some things to break up the monotony, give them some new things to check out and investigate. So we see some wire mesh boxes with hay and popcorn brought in, also these big canisters with popcorn too. And that's fun to go watch the different mandrills, check them out and mess around with them. But in the long term, for fixing the problem in terms of the disputes and injuries that they're having, it's time to bring a male in. Now, dominant males tend to run mandrill groups, which is why this works here, and so they diffuse tension well and also take attention away from the different females. They apparently have been looking for a suitable male for a while, and they finally ended up finding one. Now, I will say, I wish they told us what those criteria were for the male and how they ended up deciding. We didn't get that info, but I would have been so intrigued to hear what it was. Well, at any rate, Linus is the mandrill brought in. And we get to see his first times over there being looked at. And also, well, there's some concerns. Manager Beth over there is noticing that, hey, he's really putting his face close to the ground for small items when he's foraging. So there's some worries about his eyesight. See, he seems to be fine with the large ones, but not these small ones. And that could be a real problem for how he interacts with the rest of the group, potentially even dangerous if it is really bad. So, what does that mean? Well, the ever popular theme for Animal Kingdom series here, vet checks. Time to bring in Dr. Natalie once again. Hey, we get used to our doctors a lot because we really like using that for drama here in the series. Well, in fairness, it's a legitimate source of drama as far as what goes on in the lives of these animals and our keepers and our managers, etc. Now, to go ahead and take a look at Linus, well, you probably aren't surprised this is another one of those cases of anesthesia, which also makes it a little harder sometimes to get the cues because you're checking out eyesight, but your patient is under anesthesia, so you can't quite get all the normal cues you would in a usual case. And also, in terms of the mandrill, well, you only got about an hour, really, until they start coming out of the anesthesia. And you see that Dr. Natalie really doesn't want to try to extend that anesthesia, so I'm guessing mandrills are not quite as stable under anesthesia as certain other animals we've seen. Heck, one of the things we got to see there was Dr. Natalie saying to the camera crew, hey, his eyes are starting to react to the light, so if I scream out, I need you to leave quickly. And we put that in here. So yeah, there's a little bit of concern if things really get to that point. And it was neat to actually show that and let us see that piece right there. That's it, they seem to make it out just fine though, not a problem when it comes to it. But that concern was still interesting to see. Now ultimately, Linus gets a clean bill of health. Looks like it was apparently some simple behavioral choice that he learned and picked up from somewhere. Wasn't a lack of eyesight, oh thank goodness. And then, later we get to see the introduction of Linus to the different female mandrills. And we get to see everybody excited, but also a little tense as it's getting there because the unpredictability about introducing other animals to other animals. And, well, not to worry, the grooming seems to come on quick. But to be honest, I have no idea how much they cut out in between. It could have been hours later for all I know. And you had a whole bunch of the keepers, manager watching, and they're all excited. You can tell they are. And it was fun to go watch them all around, meet each other, and just see what the interactions were. Definitely was fun. Oh, by the way, that excitement from the keepers and the manager, nothing compared to how excited and emotional they were about a month and a half later. And heck, the entire care team was there too, because pregnancy. Scarlett, the middle of the three, so the mother and daughter, I guess, in that set of three, well, she is pregnant. And we find out about 5 to 6 weeks pregnant, so it didn't take too long for that one to start up. And so, hey, this meant Dr. Dan showing up over here too. Dr. Dan we see pretty much every episode, probably multiple times each episode. And we got to see the ultrasound, little heartbeat. Also, watching to see the work that it took to keep Scarlett with her belly up and facing the fence, which she impressively did. Hey, we did get to see her turn around one time just when there was a pause. Hey, I know, that's a great butt. Oh, yes, the colorful butts of the Mandrills, which she's certainly not the only one. I mean, look at Linus's colorful butt right there. Yeah, the Mandrills were definitely a ton of fun. But hey, let us move on. They were probably the biggest highlight here, but we certainly had other animals to see too. So next up, we're on to Sony the Sumatran tiger, who is an 8-year-old female tiger. And we really got to talk a lot with keeper Susan. She was the one that talked to us, a ton. And yeah, you just love watching Sony just being a big cat. Susan throws some meat down over to Sony. Sony looks at it and then it's like, it looks back up. Yeah, so you threw some meat. What else you got? Big cat indeed. Now, they had some big activity overnight as they planted a whole bunch of lemongrass over in the habitat. Back to changing things up, bringing new things into the environment. And intriguingly, lemongrass is actually part of their natural habitat too. And they love to chew the ends on it and roll around in the lemongrass. And before they left, we also saw Susan spraying a whole bunch of perfumes in there because apparently Sony and the Sumatran tiger just loves the different smells. And it really kind of like catnip almost to her. And do you think Sony loved it? Oh yeah, of course she did. Definitely made me think of how house cats end up reacting to catnip just watching Sony rolling around and chewing on the grass. And how she held the grass too. Oh, it's too much fun. Too much fun. I'm a cat person anyway, I gotta be honest. One other quick thing over there on Sony was we also got to see them practicing getting her ready for some voluntary blood drawing. So just training. But really, we've talked about this before, and it's a recurring theme in here, is you want to avoid anesthesia as much as possible. Anytime you use anesthesia, it's dangerous. It's true on humans, it's true on any non-human animals too. And so, yeah, that's what they're working on here, and they call it baiting when they're keeping them moving with the food. And so that way they would work Sony back into the position where they could get access to the tail and where Sony would be okay with you messing with her super sensitive tail. And that was really impressive to see. It's also the setup they even have to make that all work. I gotta be honest, I'm also curious about how much time they had spent training Sony prior to what we saw. Is that the result of months and months of training? Just a few weeks? I don't know. Well, I guess as much as we might not want to move on from Sony, let us move on to our next set of animals. So up next we have the spotted hyenas, and there are two of them here. We have female Scooter and male Zawadi. And apparently Scooter's the super intelligent one, and Zawadi, super sweet. And in this case, Keeper Nicole is the one we heard a ton from here. And she really, really cares about the two. As she said, they really changed her life for the better, so huge impact. We got to see some of their meals, goat milk mixed with peanut butter, and a liver smoothie. Hey, the smellier the better. Because, hey, these are hyenas. They love rolling around in poop. That said, the episode really treated this whole thing as a huge negative opinion of hyenas. I guess I've not been exposed in the same way. I don't think of hyenas as bad. I don't have that kind of a reaction to hyenas at all. Hyenas are cool. So was my opinion. And then a couple other things we saw in the hyenas were the keepers getting to use scratchers to groom the hyenas. oh, too much fun. And you could see how much the hyenas just loved getting scratched like that. Oh, so cool. Oh, wouldn't that be fun to just be able to get over there and scratching hyenas like that? Oh, that would be fun. Good bonding time. And the other thing was a big bubble bath for the hyenas, which, hey, was scented. Lavender, I think, in this case. Because, remember, they do love scents. And so it was fun watching them in the bubble bath and getting to munch at the bubbles. And also, when one of them was out and shaking off and some of the water hit the other one, just that little yelp, got hit by water. Just kind of that startled yelp. We didn't spend much time with the hyenas today, which I was kind of sad by, but it was fun the time we did get to spend with them. So off to our fourth species of the day, which is an Abyssinian ground hornbill, and this is Casanova, who is a male hornbill, that is. And Casanova, super curious, and intriguingly always wanting human company, very much so. But we didn't talk about it, but I do wonder if that's part of where he came from, maybe? Maybe he was with humans from a very young age and then coming here. He's 23 years old at this point, so clearly, yeah, he probably had a life before this. Now, in this case, our person who knew him so well was Keeper Mel. And Mel was the main keeper we talked, not the only one we saw, but I think the only one we talked to during the course of it. And again, as is often the case, there's going to be a vet issue in this one. Because the concern here was that Casanova was losing some feathers, having dry and crackly feathers and some skin flaking off. And that meant there's a worry about maybe there's an underlying health condition. So off to the vet. And that means time to see Dr. Dan again this episode. And to go ahead and do the full checkup, it's anesthesia time. Because there's also a blood draw going on in this one. So yeah, when you're doing that especially. So the worry is, well, maybe it's a simple fix, but it could be something serious. So they found out it wasn't mites or anything like that pretty easily. And they had to take time to get the blood results back. And they found out, yeah, looks like it probably was just a vitamin A deficiency. So a 3-month follow-up later on shows Casanova to be doing a heck of a lot better. And in this case, they did that follow-up without anesthesia, just over there. And yeah, because we just check into the wings, make sure how Casanova's doing. And yeah, got to play a little fetch with Casanova at the end. Oh, it was fun. Casanova seems pretty neat. Now, you would think this was the end, but no, there was one other section that was tucked into this week's episode. And that was a brief 5th section, which we talked about the Moat system a teensy bit. So Joe, the executive creative designer, who we've seen a few times, he's back again, talks about how they try to make the landscape as close to natural as possible. And, well, you couldn't use giant fences to separate the animals because they'd be so big you wouldn't be able to see the animals. So what you do is use a moat system which lets you stack the views of the different animals and different landscapes. This, I'm sure, is also part of why it's important to check the water levels every morning. Now, we didn't talk too much about how that moat system really works, but it is an impressive system and they do a good job of keeping it out of sight, as well as a whole lot of other features that are over there that they also keep out of sight, like feeders, etc. But there are also a lot of different types of moats in existence and used in zoos and different areas like this. They're not all wet either. They could be filled with water, but there are dry ones. There are things that potentially use some current as well to go ahead and help keep animals away. But heck, sometimes even just having it marshy will help stop animals from having any interest in crossing. And it also depends heavily on how far those animals jump as to how big a moat needs to be, for instance. But yeah, I would have loved to have gone into that kind of detail on this, but not happening this time. The other thing we got to see was a bunch of nighttime work because, well, we had to go drain out one of those moats to go check it, as they apparently do from time to time. So they were just examining the submerged fence that was over bordering the black rhino habitat. Which, heck, it takes 5 hours to drain that thing. 164,000 gallons of water. And yeah, that was pretty neat to see as well. Heck, you would never know there was a fence submerged down there like that. And that was it. Another good episode. Surprisingly, there were actually 5 sections this time, including 4 different animal species. And while I often want to go a little deeper with the information presented, like the last episode, I thought this one flowed well and I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm tempted sometime to make a video in the future about all of the moats that Disney uses out there. It's actually quite intriguing and it involves multiple different types, and Especially for Disney, it's also about how they hide them too. Next week, we got a little tease. That's also the episode title. But we've got some super cute aardvarks coming up. Exciting! Wonderful will also get those hippos that they were teasing with us with a couple times during this episode. And hey, that means it's that time. So, well, what about you? Who was your favorite animal this time? For me, it was Sony, our tagger, but I also love the hyenas so much. And are you curious to know more about how Disney makes all those hidden moats work? Let me know down below in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, help me out by giving it a like, share, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new video from Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the force be with you. Always.